What is going on with Zoom? I might just have to ditch Zoom for today if it's not going to play nice. X. You can hear all the people banging their pots and pans outside. It's pretty cool every day at 7 o'clock. All right. Zoom is deciding to work. Here we go. All right. So we are going to press broadcast here. And we got OBS working. All right, looking good. Let me just double check on Restream. Just to let people know what we're using here, we're using Open Broadcast Studio, and that's pushing to a product called Restream that's pushing out to Instagram and YouTube and a bunch of other platforms. And so it looks like it's working now. So here we go. So I am going to go and share just one last thing I got to open up here, which is the presentation. All right. And we'll go with desktop. All right, sorry about that. All right, here we go. So my name is Julian, and thank you for coming today. Every Thursday night at 7 p.m. PST, I put on a webinar. This is sponsored by Digital Desks Co-working, which is located in Victoria, BC, downtown on Humboldt Street. And so for the month of April, we've been putting on weekly webinars that teach basically topics around small to medium-sized business. And today we're going to be looking at how to create a one-page business plan that works. So usually I just put my little video down here, and then we'll start presenting here. So inside this webinar, we're going to learn the secrets of strengthening 6 key components of your business. You'll discover simple yet powerful ways to run your company that will give you and your leadership team more focus, more growth, and more enjoyment. So as a small business owner who wears a lot of different hats, I've definitely been in the position where I feel like there's just so many things I need to think about at the same time. And so I actually came across this book called Traction by Gino Wickman, and it really blew me away. I really liked it. And so basically I'm presenting some of the information from this book today. So I definitely recommend you go and check out this book. It's called Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business by Gino Wickman. So I'll have a link to that partway through the presentation. Just a couple little notes here. So let me see if I can change. So this episode is actually sponsored by Linda Hay Hypnosis. So this is a hypnotist who's recently moved to Victoria, BC, and she does online Zoom meetings for people with anxiety or people who want to quit smoking, people who have maybe experienced trauma. She deals with adults and children. So highly recommend if you're interested or someone you know is interested in pursuing hypnosis as a way to remedy some of these things. Definitely check out lindahayhypnosis.com, and there's a booking URL at the bottom here, and she's fantastic. She's got 30 years experience plus of senior nursing experience, and for the last decade or so has been doing hypnosis, and for the last couple years at least has been doing online hypnosis via various video platforms such as Zoom. So this is a perfect opportunity to reach out and see if that would work for you. Anyone who's been to one of these presentations knows that we have just launched our new Digital Desks website with an emphasis on virtual memberships. So definitely go check that out. What I say to people is if you are trying to grow your business from a residential address, our virtual membership is a great way to get an affordable professional address downtown, which has many benefits, which you can read about on our website, but one of which, of course, is capturing all of that local web searches in the downtown core. Unless you have a downtown presence, you're going to be missing out on that web traffic. So if you're growing your business from a suburb and you want to have a downtown presence in Victoria, BC, or perhaps you're from Vancouver and you want to have a Victoria, BC virtual office, definitely go and check out our virtual membership offering. So straight to the content now. So in this webinar, we're going to learn about the 6 components that you should focus on in order to get a grip on your business, or as the book says, get traction, right? 2, we're going to look at how your leadership can align themselves around a shared vision and what that involves and what the benefits of that are. And also how to solve some common problems that plague every business when they don't focus on the right things and they don't have a shared vision. So those are the types of topics we're going to talk about today. So again, this presentation is inspired by a book I like by Gino Wickman called Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business. So definitely go check out Amazon and you can get yourself a copy. So basically at a high level, what we're going to talk about is these 6 areas, okay? So EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. So for a long time, I felt it's very important to systemize various things about your business. I come from a computer IT field, and systemizing processes is critical because there are just so many, and often there are many people involved in those processes, right? So EOS stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and there's 6 different areas that you need to focus on. And again, the beauty of this is that if you're worried about a long list of things, you can actually just focus on these six components and achieve success, and it kind of frees you up because you just have more focused attention on just 6 things, okay? So the first one is vision. So you want to develop and communicate a strong shared vision in your company. And the way we're going to tackle that today is with 8 questions that will help you focus. What is your shared vision? And when you have a shared vision, I'm a big fan of putting that on your website, putting that up in your cubicles at your company, putting it on your brochures. I mean, once you've defined a very clear vision for your business, there is no reason not to share that. So, you know, it's creating it and it's also communicating it. The second component we're going to talk about is people. How do you get the right people in the right seats for your team and your business, okay? So that's something that's like the sort of human resources component, I suppose. Data here. So if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. You cannot improve it. So what kind of KPIs do we need to focus on? KPIs are called key performance indicators. They're things that you can baseline perhaps before you implement this EOS. And then as every month that goes by, every quarter that goes by, every year that goes by, you can look at your key performance indicators and see how well you are meeting your goals. They might be goals that are at a company level, or they might be goals that are at an individual person resource level. We're going to talk about issues, good ways of managing the multitude of issues that bombard your business on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. How is a good way to maintain those issues, and how you can identify, make a decision, and solve these issues, okay? Another component is processes. How can you document core processes for your business, and how can you get them adopted company-wide, okay? So I'm going to show you a little bit about sort of how I do that. Definitely, if there's one thing you take away today, it's understanding your processes that run your company and how you can document that, systemize them, and also iterate on them in the future. So if things aren't quite working, being able to go and sort of adapt your business processes and redocument what the change looks like and re-communicate that to your team. And then traction is basically bringing all of this to life in a way that's meaningful. So he talks about quarterly rocks, which are basically just, it's like you're carrying a rock up a hill for your team. It's things that you're directly responsible for. So one of the things I've read at Apple is they have something called a DRI, which is a directly responsible individual. There's only one for every task or deliverable. So for me, the rocks, the DRI, it's all about making sure the right people are given the right tasks and they're accountable to them. And one way to kind of get a sense of how well everyone's progressing weekly or monthly or quarterly is to have very structured meetings where people come to the meeting and they explain what their rocks are or their responsible tasks are, and have a measured way of communicating how well they have met those goals, basically. So that's just at a high level, the 6 different areas, and we're going to go into depth now and talk about those. So before we get into the solution, I'm just going to reiterate a few of the pain points that you might be experiencing. So basically a lack of control. So when you start a small business, you wear a lot of different hats: marketing, operations, sales, products and service creation, maybe fulfillment. Depending on if it's just a solopreneur or a small team, it's very easy and very quickly you can find yourself kind of lacking control, right? So here we have a statement that says you don't have control over your time, you don't have control over your market, your company. Instead of controlling the business is controlling you. So kind of reminds me of when I went to the Calgary Stampede and you see those bull riders. You're just hanging on for dear life. The business is the bull and you're just the operator and you're just hanging on for dear life, and it's pulling you left and right and up and down. That's not really a good way to run your business. You should be able to control your business, right? Another pain point, of course, is people. So, if you don't have a shared vision, often you'll just assume that people understand your vision, even though you may have not documented it clearly or communicated it clearly. And so you find yourself frustrated with employees that aren't really meeting your expectations, or customers are asking you questions you don't think are relevant or acting in a way you're not used to. Vendors or partners can also frustrate you if you don't have a sort of shared vision. You get this impression that they don't seem to listen or understand you or follow through with your actions. And at the end of the day, without a shared vision that's communicated and well created, you're not all on the same page. And so different people at your company will be pulling in different directions, and you just waste basically a lot of energy. So profit, we're in business to profit usually. And if you're struggling to make a profit, that's it. We want more profit. It adds security to your business. Looks like we're having a little bit of an issue here. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. I might just take a second here and make sure we can reconnect here. Sorry, just give me a minute here. It's a bit of the Wild West out there with the internet these days. And we just upgraded our AI mesh, so it's not on our end, I don't think. Yikes. Just check. I'm just going to quickly just log into Facebook here and make sure it's still streaming. Sorry for the delay. Let's have a look here. Just double checking. Sorry for the delay, everyone. It's okay. I'm just going to have to assume that we're still streaming here. Okay, so we'll just keep going here. So profit, let's make more of it. And if you're pulling in different directions, there's going to be a problem. So the ceiling, your growth has stopped. No matter what you do, you can't seem to break through and get to the next level. You feel overwhelmed and unsure of what to do next. So I think that happens to pretty much everyone. You set a bunch of goals, you grow your business to those goals, you meet those goals if you're lucky and hardworking and etc. And then if you're not planning ahead, you kind of run out of goals and maybe your team loses focus and whatnot. So it's always good to understand what your vision is today, short term, medium term, and long term, and keep everyone kind of moving in the same direction, right? So another pain point that people feel when they're not aligned on those 6 components that we're going to talk about is it feels like nothing's working, right? So you've tried various strategies and quick fix remedies and none of them seem to work for that long. And as a result, your staff become numb to the new initiatives. So you find yourself spinning your wheels, and as the metaphor in the book is about traction, and you really want your tires to get that traction and move everything in the same direction. So those are just some pain points. They're pretty high level, but it's just those are symptoms of an organization that doesn't have a shared vision, doesn't have the right people in the right seats, etc. So we'll go into detail. But the good news is I believe that if you follow this book and you map out your one-page business plan, which we'll do today, that it just makes, when you shut your eyes and think of your business and all the processes, it just makes it a lot simpler to have those 6 buckets, and everything's kind of organized into those 6 buckets. So let's dig into it here. So there's quite a bit of text on this, but I just felt like there wasn't a lot I could remove here, and I just really wanted to read this to you guys. So every great system is made up of a core group of basic components. And the same applies to the EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. So again, it identifies these 6 key components that an organization needs to kind of monitor, right? So the little quote here is the guy saying that I used to worry about 100 different things, and now I just components, and it makes everything simpler, right? So that's really the point of this slide, is just once again to reference the book that I'm inspired by, and also just point out that the most high level goal here is to minimize the number of things you have to worry about to run your business, and just focus on those 6 things, right? Okay, so we'll just keep going here. So again, just to drive it home here, and while I am talking on this slide, do take a note of this URL here, this Universal Resource Locator URL. It's HTTPS, and then obviously : / www.eosworldwide.com, and then just put / hubfs, and then / eos-vto.pdf. And what you'll notice is this is actually the one-page business plan that we're gonna fill out in a minute. So I'll just spend a minute again just to give you a high-level pass. You're not meant to understand this right now. And we'll get into the details here, but it's basically a one-page business plan. It's called the Vision Traction Organizer. So you put your org name in and you define your vision, and I'm going to walk us through how to define all of this, right? So you've got your core values that we'll discuss in a minute, your core focus, so your purpose, your cause, your passion, and the niche that you're targeting, and also a long-term vision, so a long-term target. A little bit about marketing, a marketing strategy, and what makes you unique and different from your competitors, and why your process is better than the next person's, and what your guarantee is, etc. And we also have a 3-year plan as well, so we have a few areas to fill out there. And then we also have the 1-year plan, and then we have the rocks, which are like the individual responsibilities for each person. That's why there's a who column here. And then we have an issues list where we're going to identify issues, discuss them, and solve them, right? So I just wanted to give you a little precursor into what we're filling out here. So when I talk about a one-page business plan, it's 1 piece of paper and it's 2 sides. But obviously I want you to stick this on your wall every quarter and update it every quarter. So it's probably going to print out onto 2 pages, and you can stick that up by your desk and make sure that your team is following it. So again, this works for a solopreneur who just wants to manage their goals and expectations and drive, but it really has value when you start to have more than 1 person in your team, because it brings that team together under a shared vision. Just going to have a sip of water here. All right, so let's move on here. So vision, strengthening this component is getting everyone in the organization 100% on the same page with where you're going and how you're going to get there. So you can go to Google and type in how to create a company vision and dig down on these topics a little bit more. We just have an hour today. We're already a third of the way through that, and I have lots to get through. So I'm not going to dig down necessarily and help you write a vision right now, but just Google's your friend. Go figure out how to write your company vision, right? I'm just going to see if I can get some notes up here. Just one second. My speaker notes I'm going to put on my other screen here. Maybe I'll just go like that. Just in case my speaker notes come up. Thank you. All right, here we go. So vision is the first component. People is the second. So you can't run a great team in a company without great people. So how do you get the right people in the right seats? So a big vision requires a big team. So people, so vision is number one. Number two is people. Number three is data. So doesn't matter if you feel like you're doing a good job, it's the data that matters. You need to have measurable performance indicators that can really hold people accountable in a very transparent way. They know ahead of time what measurements are going to be conducted to determine if they've met their goals or not. So, data is king, and we're going to get into that a little bit. So once you have a strong shared vision, you have the right people in the right seats, and everyone understands how performance is going to be measured, you start to create a more lucid, transparent, open, and honest organization where everything becomes more visible, and this starts to smoke out any problems or issues that might need addressing. Okay, so that's kind of the first three components. They kind of work together: vision, people, and data. So now we're going to go and talk about the second three components. So number 4 is issue management. Strengthening this component means becoming great at solving problems throughout the organization, setting them up, knocking them down, and making them go away forever. So it's that IDS: identify all the issues, discuss them with your team, and find solutions. So identify, discuss, and solve is the IDS acronym, which we need to remember. Processes. So this is the secret ingredient of your organization. And like I said earlier, systemizing your processes is a really good way to go. It allows you to, first of all, identify all of them that are necessary, document them, and I'm going to show you how I document business processes. And this way, when you have a diagram of your business processes and an inventory of all of them, it really gets people on the same page. It's really easy to on-ramp new employees, etc. So we'll get into that in a minute. Actually, you know what? Let's just do it right now. So I just saw this link pop up. So one of the tools I want to recommend is, what did I just open here? Let's just put that over there, sorry. So this is a Google Draw, which is a great free tool where you can go and draw your processes. So right before this presentation, I just threw together an example one, right? So I usually use start and end symbols like this, kind of like a pill shape. Then I use, for tasks, I use a rectangle or square. And then for decision points, I use a diamond shape. And decisions either lead to a yes or a no, right? So this is just an example. It's just a silly example I made. But you have a start of the process. And another process might input into this process. So you'd have to have a high-level diagram that shows the interaction between these different sub-processes. But this one here is the daily lead check-in. So you go to your email, check for new meeting appointments. So I'm just using like a business that creates automatic meetings on their website where people go and they sign up because they want more information or a callback or something. So are there any new leads? If there are, great, there's a lot of new leads. So call those leads and confirm an appointment time. Or if there's no leads, then go tell the boss there's no leads and that his marketing sucks. It's just a joke. So this is just a great tool for documenting business processes. And of course, being a Google tool, it's easy to share or collaborate live and work on these together. So it's a lot more affordable than Microsoft Visio. And it's just a tool I thought I would share, right? So we can use that to document our company's processes, for example. And then the last component, traction, just really means bringing it all together. So bringing the discipline and accountability into your organization and becoming good at executing on those other 5 components, right? So let's dig into the meat here. But before we do that, I just wanted to give credit to Gino Wickman again. And his quote is, "To the degree you focus on strengthening these 6 components as leaders and managers, everything else falls into place." And he claims that this will move your business into the top 5%. So let's dig in here. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about vision, right? So this is the first component here, vision. And a good way to do this is to basically answer a few questions. So we ask ourselves a lot of questions about our business, and it helps define the vision, right? So some of the questions that we're going to look into, and I've listed all of these questions in this presentation. So just when you see this on Facebook or wherever, just put a link, or I tell you what, just send me an email, info@digitaldesks.ca, if you want these slides, and I'll send them to you. And it might make it a little easier for you to fill out your business plan and answer these questions that are just about to come up. So we're going to go and look at the 8 questions to help you define your vision. So what are your core values? What's your core focus? Let's talk about your 10-year target, your marketing strategy, your 3-year picture, your 1-year plan, what the quarterly rocks are, or those items that individuals are going to be responsible for, and any issues you might have that need addressing, okay? So again, I recommend that you kind of revisit your EOS every quarter and update it as necessary, and also track your progress, of course, right? So basically, the next few slides are a quiz where I think, you can take screenshots of this presentation if you want to kind of compile your list of questions. So we're going to go through 20 questions now, and I'm going to go fairly quickly because we're kind of halfway through our time here. And these are questions which will help you fill out your 1-page business plan. Will also help you take a baseline of where you are today. And then in the future, you can take another baseline and see how well you've progressed, taking into account this approach if you choose to follow it, which I hope you do. So here we go. So question 1, shared vision. Ask yourself, do you have a clear vision in writing that is being properly communicated and is shared by everyone in your company? So if you can go to your business website right now and you have your vision statements, and you know that everyone in your company has those that vision communicated to them, that your vision is accurate and realistic, and it's been well communicated to everyone, both internally and externally, maybe to your clients via your website, or internally via your employee manual, then you can give yourself a 4 or a 5. But if any of those things aren't true, and you need to be honest with yourself, you might give yourself a lower score, okay? Number 2, are your core values clear? And are you hiring, reviewing, rewarding, and firing resources around those core values, right? So again, you can go onto Google and type in, how do I create core values for my company? And there'll be lots of presentations or websites that can kind of tease that information out of you. Again, save yourself the effort of digging around and just grab yourself this book. I looked today on Amazon, and it was less than $15 for a paper copy. So you could just do it that way, probably a lot simpler. Number 3, your core focus or core business is clear, and you keep all your people, systems, and processes, aligned and focused on it, okay? So that's a question you're going to need to ask yourself as you fill out this 1-page business plan. I'll just let you read that for a second while I just check my stream here. Here we go. Okay. So number 4, your 10-year target, so this is the big long-range goal, is clear, communicated regularly, and shared by all. So it's really, again, part of your vision. So there's different parts of your vision. There's short-term, medium, and long-term, right? So number 5, target market, a definition of your ideal customer, or persona, I like to say, is very clear And all of your marketing and sales efforts are focused on that persona or personas. So if you haven't watched our episode 1 of this online series, it's called How to Optimize Your Business Website. And we talk a lot about personas and how you can create personas so that your marketing and your communications are targeted correctly. So go back and watch that if you want. So I just threw this in here. So this is talking about just an awareness that people are different and have different skill sets. And so you might want to make yourself a little matrix like this so that you understand your people and you understand which roles they should sit in. So you want to make sure that you understand who your team is, what their strong suit is, and you can do that with like 365 reviews or quarterly reviews, questionnaires you might send them, etc. But yeah, I mean, you really need to know who you're working with, what they enjoy doing, what their passion is, what they're good at, what they're maybe not so good at. And understanding all the different roles that you require at your company and making sure that everyone's in the right seat. So that's a big way of doing that is perhaps with a spreadsheet and a matrix like that. So 6, there's come up with 3 differentiators that are clear. What makes your company, your product, your service, all 3 of those really you should answer, different to your competition, right? So it's one of the first things I think of when we're doing marketing for a client, which is how are you different to your competitors? One of the first questions I ask people is, who are your competitors? Because the first thing I do when I'm getting a new client is I go look at all their competitors and see where does this new client sit in the market compared to their competitors. If you've seen Gartner reports, they have that graph where they basically do a scatter graph of different companies and which ones are being innovated and more than the others, etc. So you kind of need to do that for your clients too. What are the things that differentiate your clients compared to their competitors? What makes them better, faster, stronger, and how do you communicate that? Well, you put it in your business plan and you communicate your vision out to the whole of your team, and then everyone knows that those are the talking points. Those are what we need to really communicate outward, okay? So number 7, you have a proven process for doing business with your customers, and it has been named and visually illustrated, and all of the salespeople use it. So again, if you take the time to go and quickly learn this Google Draw product, you could buy Visio too. Visio is pretty sweet. Office 365, I believe, has Visio. Either of these tools. There's also something called Smart Draw you could use. But it's never a bad idea to draw out your business model, draw out your processes. And I'm a big fan too of having a legend that says, what version is it? This is what I forgot to add earlier today. So, always have a version number, always have the create date, the last updated, have a change log. So when people make changes, they understand what the changes were. And it's just a great way to keep everybody on the same page. So you can rate yourself on your own time with these questions. All of the people in my organization are the right people and they fit into our culture and share our core values. So you ain't gonna know that if you haven't documented your core values. So again, this 1-page business plan is gonna bring you focus, right? And if you have focus, you're gonna start hiring the right people. 9 out of 20, so our accountability chart, so this is an organizational chart that includes all the roles and responsibility, is clear, complete, and constantly updated. So a really quick way to on-ramp people is to show them your org chart. And so I think I have an example here on the next page. So you've got your kind of high-level visionary leader, and then you have your managers who deal with the day-to-day. They're the integrators of your products and services. And then you have your different departments here. So good to explain your org chart to your new hires. One of the things I use is called a Raki, which is a matrix that shows roles and accountability. And you basically have these codes here. So you've got these different roles on a project, for example. So I've got a project sponsor, the project authority, the PM, and then various team members. And then you have these different activities here, which right now are just numbers, but it could be like I don't know, project planning or testing or implementation or something like that. And then it shows, is this person accountable, or are they responsible, accountable, consulted, or informed? So definitely go and look at Google and type in Raki matrix if you want a way to clearly articulate the different roles in your company and who's responsible for different activities. So these activities are going to be the same boxes as you have on your process diagram. So I just kind of threw that in as a good tool, a Raki matrix. So everyone's in the right seat, and they understand your vision, and they want to execute your vision, and they have the capacity and skill set to do that. So you need to ask yourself today, is that true? And give yourself a rating. Your leadership team is open and honest and demonstrates a high level of trust. So I've definitely had enough leaders before I was an entrepreneur, I worked for lots of corporations, and there's definitely the whole rainbow of leadership. Some were very not trusting at all and very kind of, micromanagers, and others were very much trusting, go do what you do best and just come back to me with results, right? So you just got to make sure you have a right balance there. When you have your quarterly meetings, it's important that everyone knows their rocks, which is the big issues they're willing to tackle and carry up the hill, right? So there's a place for everyone to record their priorities for that quarter. Number 13, we want to make sure that everybody's engaged in regular meetings or regular weekly meetings in this example. So that's something you need to set up. Again, you could type into Google how to run a good meeting. Most of the meetings I go to are not run well. Some of the things that I like to suggest are sending an agenda ahead of time, preferred outcomes for that meeting ahead of time, for each, crowdsourcing and agenda items, doing a roundtable of blocking issues and things like that. So the Traction book lists, this is a suggested meeting format, which is, some good news stories at the beginning, just to kind of warm up, I guess. A scorecard, which are these KPIs. The rock review, which is going around the table and saying, of all those 7 items that you said you would carry this quarter, how well are they progressing? And then people headlines, I think, is just to do with new business updates from people. And then your to-do lists and your IDS, your issue tracking. So this is just an example. I personally don't use all of these items in my meetings, but it's just good to have structure and agenda to your meeting and take minutes, etc. You don't want to be wasting people's time. So that's just a suggestion in that direction. So, make sure your meetings are the same frequency, so everyone has a predictable time in their calendar. It's difficult when meetings move around all the time. It kind of throws people off a little bit. So all of your teams clearly identify and discuss and solve issues for the long-term greater good of the company. So we're going to get into issue management in a minute, but I think that kind of speaks to itself. So I'm going to talk quickly about issue management. So I talked about this last week. My preference for managing my own tasks is using a tool called Trello. So I really push that as a way to organize my own tasks. It does have, of course, team abilities where you can assign tickets to other people and whatnot. So this is a great starting tool either for yourself or for your team. One of the things I talked about, I think last week, was an add-on you can add to Jira where it integrates with your Google Calendar. So each of these cards actually kind of gets a date timestamp of when it should be completed. And the research shows that when you have a task list where individual items are pegged against a part of your calendar, you're more likely to complete them. So that's something that I'm really pushing for, is Trello with Google Calendar integration for being productive. I find my personal preference is to use an enterprise issue management tool called Jira to manage teams. So again, they've recently released, Atlassian is the company, the Jira Cloud. It's a cloud offering of this tool. I used to have to set up this on an Amazon server and manage it myself, and it was just a lot of work. And so I'm just super excited that now I can just use the Jira Cloud, and it's very affordable and it works just as well. And as I said last week, I use it to manage my remote team. And it's just a great way to track projects. I could go on for hours about the different functionality, but they do have add-ons for testing and things like that if you are in a software development environment. But yeah, a really cool tool. Definitely go check it out. Jira from Atlassian. So we've talked about this a little bit. So 16 out of 20. Does your core processes, are they well documented? Are they simple? And are they being followed by your team to generate the results you want? So you need to ask yourself that. And if that's not true, then you're in the right place, because we're going to be filling out the one-page business plan that will help you get on track with all these things. Do you have systems for receiving regular feedback from customers and employees, so you always know their level of satisfaction? So I had an example, but I can't see where it is. But basically, I don't need to show it. Basically, at our co-working space, once a quarter, we try and send out a questionnaire, and we use something called the Net Promoter Score, NPS, that's an N, Net Promoter Score. You can check out Wikipedia, type that in, Net Promoter Score. It's very similar to this scale here. It basically says, how likely are you to recommend our product or service on a scale of 1 to 10? Having an automated questionnaire that reaches out to your customers, hopefully provides some value, and then ask them for some feedback is a great way to measure satisfaction over the long term. And of course, I've talked about the KPIs, the key performance indicators. So these are really great to get in place in a spreadsheet or something, and every quarter kind of track your progress, right? So the ones that the Traction book recommends is, what's your weekly revenue? What's your cash balance? How many sales calls were completed? Sales meetings, proposals, closed business, how many sales were closed? What's your satisfaction rating? What's our accounts receivable looking like? What's accounts payable looking like? Have there been any mistakes or errors? And what sort of resourcing and utilization, how's the capacity of your team and whatnot? So you should come up with your own KPIs. These are the ones recommended by the book, so worth consideration. So does everyone in your organization have at least one metric that they are accountable for each week? So of those metrics we just saw, you probably would get your accountant or your bookkeeper to answer questions such as accounts receivable balances and accounts payable balances. You'd get your sales manager to pipe up and talk about how many calls were completed and how many sales meetings were conducted and how much business was closed. Your writing team, copywriters, might talk about how many proposals they've sent out the door, etc. So having the right people tracking the right metrics and being responsible for those is critical. So last question, 20 out of 20. Do you have a budget, and are you monitoring it regularly, either monthly or quarterly? Don't want to be running a business without a budget. Things, especially when you have people with purchasing authority spread out in your team, that's probably not a good idea. So basically, this is called the organizational checkup, is what we just went through. So again, easy way to complete this is to go check out the Traction book. But again, all of the questions are in these slides, so you could also get a copy of this, which I will post a link to these slides on our Facebook page underneath this video, probably tomorrow or the next day sometime. So do go check out Digital Desk Co-working on Facebook page. All right, so let's keep driving here. So this is, as we saw a minute ago, I'll just bring up the kind of clearer copy here. Let's just zoom in a little bit here. So this is the one-page business plan I keep referring to. So let me just see if I have some examples over. Okay, so I just brought up on my other screen our company one here. So let me just zoom in a little bit here. And oops, just give me 2 seconds here. So anyway, like I said, we only have a few more minutes here, so don't feel like once you print this out, you can go to Google and say, like I'll even just do it for you right now. New tab, how to write that. So defining your company's core values. This was a page I was looking at earlier today. So they go into detail on what core values are, and they have a belief that guides a firm's actions, unites its employees, and defines its brand, right? So here they have core values of different companies, so FreshBooks and Airbnb, etc., and Bain and Company. So they're quite short, you'll notice. That's not true, actually. Nature's Path seems to have longer ones. I don't see the harm in writing longer ones personally. I find like these short ones don't do it for me personally. Like FreshBooks, number 1, passion. Well, tell me a company that doesn't think it's passionate about its products or service. So I personally like the longer ones myself. So yeah, you can just go and look at some core values. So here's one: people first, not talent, personal, human resources, human capital. So I'm not going to go into trying to dream up what your business is and filling it in for you. This is something that you have to do, right? So you put your organization name in here and fill out 5 core values. I'll go back to the clearer one here. And then your core focus is, what is the purpose of your company? What cause are you pushing towards or trying to solve? So if I read some of the ones here, so I'll give you some examples. So my company, Red Maple Media, is a digital agency that does digital marketing and software development. And so I have one here that says, provide valuable long-term strategic partnerships with private and public sector organizations. Ensure the long-term success of client and project team members alike. Provide quality business and technology solutions that solve government challenges. So my company does a lot of government work, so there's a bit of a bend towards that. And then for core focus, I have, as a premier government IT solutions provider, we provide high quality, affordable services to the public sector to help it become more efficient. And our niche is Canadian, provincial, and municipal governments, right? So think about your core values, go into Google, learn about what a core value is, look at some examples, and come up with your own list. Think about your business, what the purpose is, why did you start your business, what your passion is, what your cause is, and then where you kind of differentiate and niche down. So that's a great place to start. You should also spend some time on your 3-year kind of vision, probably before you do your 10-year. And then also write down some of the marketing strategy. So one of our previous presentations, how to optimize your business website, I go a lot into kind of marketing strategy. So you could probably go watch that, and then it would be easier to fill this out. But the big thing, of course, is what differentiates your company or your service. Why are you better than your competition? And basically just lay out. So again, let me just see. This little bar gets in the way here. I don't know how to move it. Anyway, let me just open up a new tab here. So again, something I brought up last week is the HubSpot resource library, which So business and marketing resources from HubSpot, and they have a ton of stuff on marketing here. So if you're unsure on marketing strategy, I'm sure they have a template in this library, which you can check out. But you can also go elsewhere. So how to create a marketing strategy. And here you go, 7 steps to building the perfect marketing strategy. So I don't have time to go into that. Maybe that's a topic for another day, but spend some time learning about marketing strategies and how you would go about defining those, and then distill that information into that box there. For your 3-year picture, so put some dates in and some revenue goals and some profit goals and what kind of KPIs you're going to measure. So, bottom line, top line, whatever it is you think is important in terms of revenue to measure. And also less kind of numeric accounting numbers, but what does success look like? So maybe it's a team size thing, maybe it's a client list size thing, maybe it's new offices in new cities, maybe it's new websites. Let me just see what I have on my one. So I on my one here I had stuff like basically hire some new contractors to help us out, hire a new project manager, launch a new service line where we do application management support, break into the US more, greater focus on the public sector. So you can have numerical KPIs for your 3-year vision, but you can also have more qualitative examples, right? On the second page here, we talk about the 1-year plan. So similar headings that we saw in the 3-year, but the goals have kind of been broken out, okay? And goals need to be measurable so that you have acceptance criteria for each of those goals. So let me see if I ended up filling that out. So goals that I had in our Red Maple Media one was large reduction in operating expenses and accounts payable. So I wanted our team to go through basically bookkeeping and see if we could cut the fat basically in terms of expenses of products or tools that we weren't using very much. We actually ended up shifting some of our hosting, reducing our hosting costs by like 60%. And also getting at least one team member certified in a particular technology. So set some goals, make sure they're measurable, make sure you know what the definition of done looks like for those goals, and you will be on your way. So what do we got here? So we're looking at the rocks, which are basically these individual items that individuals, team members at your company are responsible for. So I talked earlier about DRIs, directly responsible individuals. That is that column right there. So we had stuff like launch the new Digital Desk website. So that just happened. Create this year's Red Maple Media strategy. So that's been done as well. Launch the new Red Maple Media website. That's in progress. Create an operational checklist. So we're still behind on documenting all of our operational procedures and things like that, right? So list the team members with every quarter. These are the big items you're going to carry forward. You're going to be responsible for. You're going to update the rest of the team on your progress. And we'll all agree ahead of time on what we measure to confirm that. All right. And then over here in the issues list, this is something where you probably just want to put your top pressing issues, and then obviously go through with your team, discuss them, and then try and come up with solutions. And of course, if you put all of this into Jira, for example, it's just fantastic for getting everyone's comments and documentation all attached to the ticket, and you can track its progress, you can prioritize it, and it's just a fantastic tool. So this will be easy to kind of work with. So what do we got here? I forget what this is here. Oh yeah, I showed you guys that already. So let's just keep moving here. So we've seen that as well. So just to summarize, so we're just at 8 o'clock here. So the goal here is to simplify the way that you visualize your business. So these are the, again, the 6 components that you need to focus on, which is having a shared vision. And the way to define that is by using those questions that we had earlier. And making sure that you document that vision and that you broadcast and communicate that vision internally and externally, right? Having a shared vision is critical, not just for your organization, but also for your individual projects as well. Having measurable progress, so making sure you understand what are the metrics you're going to track in order to prove that all of this planning and execution is actually working. So come up with a spreadsheet with a list of KPIs that you want to be recorded every quarter or every week or whatever it is. So there'll be financial ones. There might be issue resolution reports from Jira would be a good one. Customer satisfaction KPIs via a automated questionnaire with Net Promoter Score would be another good one. So think about the different areas of your business and what the key metrics are that you would want to record for those. Take some time to document the processes of your business. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So sometimes when you draw out your business in a flow chart, you start to see redundancy or duplication of work, or maybe people pulling in different directions and whatnot. It also provides an excellent tool for when you're on-ramping new employees, because you can just walk them through your process inventory document, right? Using a collaboration tool such as the Google Draw, I believe it's called, just makes it really easy to version and update and share, and people can comment on them and get notified when there's changes, and it's just a really cool way to kind of keep it all organized. Make sure you have the right people in the right seats. So if you have a strong vision and you have good processes, it'll be easier for you to understand where people should be sitting and working. Make sure you have strong issue management. You understand at a regular cadence what your issues are that you're experiencing. Document those, discuss them with your team, and find solutions. And then update your processes as necessary if they're to do with operational issues that you're dealing with. So yeah, just strong issue management is always going to help you, right? And then traction is about having weekly, even daily, like a half-hour stand-up in the morning. It's pretty powerful thing. Just even if it's 15 minutes, just get everybody on the board, especially nowadays when everyone's working from home. So have your daily scrum in the morning, have your weekly team meetings, have your monthly or quarterly reviews. Make sure you have lots of structure to those meetings. Make sure that everyone has an agenda ahead of time. Make sure that everyone understands the preferred outcomes and decisions from these meetings, why it's being held. If possible, don't have meetings, in the sense that some of these tools now, like Basecamp or Jira, they do reduce the need for meetings, because you should be able to communicate asymmetrically and not interrupt people too much. But there is something to be said, especially now they're all working from home,